Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be covering the topic of fall prevention training. There is quite a few areas in the standard to cover, and as always, we want to give a shout out and let everyone know our appreciation for their attentiveness in safety. Appreciate your buy-in, your willingness to learn, your willingness to apply. Um, we, as always, anticipate that there's something in the training that is helpful and that you can use to protect yourselves and to protect those that are around you here at Fayette Industries. So let's get started. Again, thank you for taking the time to listen to this audio and video. We are doing it in with PowerPoint and then converting the PowerPoint into a video. So any questions, direct them to me after you review. Please let me know your thoughts. If you need anything, any help, please let me know. We want to be here to assist you as individuals in working safer. So thanks again. So let's start in on our topics, break them down a little further. There's 9 areas that we want to talk about today. These are all taken from CFR 29, Code of Federal Regulations, General Industry. Um, the first one is taken from 1910-22, which is walking working surfaces, which is encompasses slips, trips, and falls. 1910-23, guarding floor and wall openings and holes is number 2. Number 3, 1910-24, fixed industrial stairs. 4 and 5, taken from 1910, 25, and 26, is portable wood ladders and portable metal ladders. You may notice that there's no code there that is specific to fiberglass ladders, and that's because OSHA does not distinguish them. They would consider them to be metal ladders because of being non-conductive. Um, Number 6, 1910-27, is fixed ladders. These would be ladders that are not removable. They're permanent, but they're ladders. Number 7 is taken from 1910-28, safety requirements for scaffolding. Not really going to touch into that too much today because we don't have any scaffolding that I'm aware of at any of our facilities, but we will talk about it briefly. Number 8 is from 1910-66, powered platforms and man lifts. We will be digging into that a little bit just because of our picker here at the Cocalamus location. We do need to talk about that. Last but not least is number 9, which is 1910-66 C, which is on fall arrest systems. And that one we will be just doing a brief introduction on, but not talking in great detail about it. at all. So those are the 9 areas that OSHA, the law designates as being requirements in doing comprehensive fall protection training on. So just wanted to, as we continue on, we do want to make a distinction between falls. Um, there are really 2 types, and it's very simple. And you can read it on the PowerPoint. It has to do with elevated versus same level falls. Um, Same level falls are the most frequent. This would be your slips and trips are the most frequent. Elevated falls are less frequent, but generally are more severe. And that makes sense if you think about it. The higher up you are, the more severity, the more injury you're going to receive. So same level falls, high frequency, low severity. Elevated falls, lower frequency but higher severity. Um, uh, Same level falls are generally slips and trips, as I've already said. Injury results when an individual hits a walking or working surface and or strikes another object during the fall. An example of that would be falling and hitting their head on a workbench or tabletop or end table or anything that would be in their way as they fell. So over 6% of elevated falls are less than 10 feet of height. Over 60% of elevated falls um, are from a height of less than 10 feet or less. OSHA requires training in general industry for any employee who is elevated 4 feet or higher. Um, so there is a stipulation in there that specifies in that elevated situation where you would be asking an employee to be elevated. Um, there are certain areas, such as ladders, would be an example of that, which would require specific training. If they reached 4 foot or higher. So construction industry, it is 6 foot. Any construction worker who is elevated 6 feet or higher would fall into the category of requiring fall protection training. So just some information there that can be helpful. But to this slide, elevated versus same level falls. So keep that in mind as we go through this PowerPoint. Falls are a leading cause of injury on and off the job. Please keep that in mind. We're not only looking at your safety here at work, we're also looking for your safety off the job as well. We need everybody. So, we need everybody. We don't want anybody to be hurt. And so keep that in mind as well. A lot of you guys and ladies are doing things off the job that hopefully can be prevented from doing some simple training, bring some awareness to some of the tasks that we do off the job as well as on the job. So it does warrant our awareness and our training. We must take measure to keep employees safe. That goes without saying. OSHA is the law. In the event that somebody would be injured, um, who would be held negligent? Fayette Industries, it's one of the reasons that I do what I do is to make sure compliance-wise, safety-wise, that we're keeping our companies safe and that we're not asking our employees to do unsafe acts or providing them with a facility or equipment that would be unsafe or that would result or could result in an injury. Um, this includes not only employees, but we also, for the industry that we're in, we also have to include uh, customers as well, and also contractors. You may have heard me say that different times throughout different training sections. We need to be aware of everyone, anyone who would come in our property. Could we be negligent? Could we have, in a sense, caused or contributed to the cause of the accident or the injury. So please be aware, be mindful. If you see anything out of place or any area that we need to clean up as far as being safe for ourselves, contractors, and equally, and puts us at a higher risk having customers come in, customers as well. Let's work together to provide a safe environment for everyone. Um, 4 areas of discussion that are in the code come from 1910-22, 22A, B, C, and D. 22A is housekeeping. Housekeeping is very important when it comes to slips and trips in particular. We need to make sure that we are keeping our facilities neat and orderly, passageways, storerooms, service rooms, um, keep clean and orderly, keep floors dry, clean up oil spills, things like that. We need to make sure that we're not setting things that just out of sloppiness that could cause a slip or a trip. Pretty common sense. I did want to mention, and I do if you read the slide here, I did add in that any abrupt change in elevation of a ½ inch is considered a hazard. So that would be a change in elevation in concrete like to asphalt. One would sink down, or one would be higher than the other in greater than a ½ inch. And this is an area of somewhat of dispute. There have been cases where there's been a ½ inch and people have lost cases. So keep that in mind for what it's worth. We want to make sure that our surfaces are in good condition and that we're doing good with our maintenance, our housekeeping. We're not setting things, it's not setting people up for a slip or a trip. Aisles and passageways, some of the same stuff, but the code actually reads, must maintain significant and safe clearance inside and out. Permanent aisles must be marked inside and out, free from snow and ice. I put that free from snow and ice in there actually, just to remind us that now that we have designated passageways designated by the lines on the asphalt, we can pay attention whenever we're doing snow and ice removal, to make sure that those areas are as slip-free as possible. Passageways with the housekeeping, we want to make sure that we're not placing anything on there that could create a slip or a trip. Next one is 22C, cover and guard or guard guardrails must be placed, provided and in place. And covers and guardrails, that is all holes, drains, grates, floor grates, even the railing on the dock must be provided and must be put up. And that is, you can find that in 1910-22 C. Floor loading protection, that is also another area that I'm not sure why it's in 1022, but they added it in there. That's where it's one of the probably several places that it is, but it is unlawful to place or to cause or to permit to be placed on any floor or roof of a building or other structure a load greater than that which it can support or was approved for. We have a few of those around our locations. One of them, an example of that would be the space above the new offices. We need to make sure that it is load bearing and can hold what we're putting on it. Years ago, I think it was like 2 years ago, OSHA had done away with the law that required that we had to post the weight limit or the maximum allowable weight on that floor had to be posted, but they've done away with that. It doesn't need to be posted, but we do need to make sure that the structure that it was built with can sustain or safely hold the weight that is being placed on it. And usually that is by the square foot, pounds per square feet. So keep that in mind. We do want to be aware of that as well, that we're not throwing a bunch of junk up there and overloading that. If OSHA did come in, it's one of the questions that they may ask. Do you know what the maximum allowable load rating is on your floor? And we'd have to give them an answer to that. So keep that in mind as well. So those are 4 areas to keep in mind. We'll be digging a little further into these as we go through the slides. Common hazards. As you can see, I've done a pictorial here. The first, top one is we have oil spills. Guys do a great job in that. We service trailers, we're going to have oil spills. We have absorbent material, keep them cleaned up. You guys do great with that. The next one down, right underneath the oil in the far left, is a tool. It's a breaker bar or a pry bar. That kind of thing. Step on that, you're not expecting it, slips out from under you, bang, there could be a fall. So keep tools off of the floor, particularly keep tools off of the floor where the passageways run. When you're working on stuff, of course, you're laying things down and you can't pick things up all the time, but keep them out of the passage ways that are designated by the lines. The bottom one is the drain hole. That the storm drain, we are working at getting a grade on that, and this is here at Cocolema site. Guys, you at your other sites, if you have anything like that needs to be repaired, let us know. When I said about a 1/2 inch clearance from an abrupt, that would even include your drains. So if you have a drain that's sticking up a 1/2 inch, it should be lowered down flush. Keep that in mind. That's an example. Top center is air hose laying on the floor. Should never be placed for any length of time, or shouldn't be placed there without somebody with it on the designated passageways, but trip hoses. Middle one is snow and ice, slip hazard, absolutely. The bottom one is a welcome mat that is flipped over. We had one out here at Cocolema in the entrance door a few months back. The thing just kept folding up. I tripped, or almost tripped over it. I stumbled a couple times over it and finally realized that I wasn't doing due diligence, and we removed it and got another one. So, careful of that. Rugs are, they can get you. Top right is a car lift. Took that photo. Not only is the extension cord laying there a trip hazard, but also the lift arms on the jack or the lift is a trip hazard too. That's why they're painted bright orange, or bright yellow, and it's to help bring awareness that they're there. Next one down, the middle one on the right, is the forks on the forklift. They need to be down when you park a forklift, but they can be a trip hazard. So guys, when you park the forklifts, please don't park extending the forks in the passageway, whether it's inside or outside. And try to position them out of the path. And I know you guys do that, but it's important to do that. There's been a lot of accidents from that. I've done reports on all of these things, really. I've done investigations and accident reports and all that stuff. So please, try to keep things cleaned up and out of the way of traffic. The last one, you may not be able to see it on the PowerPoint. That's where my video is projecting, but there's a piece of cardboard on the floor. Cardboard can also be a hazard as well when it's on the floor. So these are a few that I've seen. If you have any questions about them, any recommendations, or if you see something, like an oil spill, that's, clean it up. You see a tool laying on the floor, it's in pathway area, pick it up, put it up, that kind of thing. Report anything that you see. Potentially, it will prevent an accident or a fall.
As workers, one thing we all have in common is the need for a safe and secure walking or working surface on which to stand, work, or travel. In fact, providing workers with a safe working and traveling surface is so important that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, has developed and recently updated its regulation 29 CFR 1910, Subpart D, titled Walking and Working Surfaces. Employee training is an important part of the OSHA regulation. Those employees covered by the regulation must be trained in the nature of the fall hazards in the work area and how to recognize them, as well as in the procedures to be followed to minimize those hazards. We'll get started by discussing the most common reason for falling, a slip or trip. A slip is caused by a loss of traction between the sole of the footwear and the walking or working surface. Some materials that can contribute to a loss of traction include slippery liquids such as water, oil, or grease, as well as other materials such as sawdust, metal filings, or cardboard. A trip is caused when the foot or leg strikes or becomes obstructed by an object while in motion. Some materials that can contribute to trips include tools, cords, hoses, pipe, pallets, or any object located in the path of travel. Walking and working surfaces should be maintained free of these types of trip and slip hazards to help prevent falls. Another contributing factor to both slips and trips is momentum. The faster a person is moving, the more likely it is that contacting a slip or trip hazard will result in a fall. This is why you should always travel at a slow and controlled speed while scanning your path of travel for slip and trip hazards. When you notice a slip or trip hazard, you should correct it right away if it's safe for you to do so and you are able. Otherwise, mark the hazard in some way and report the condition to someone authorized to have it corrected. Section 1910.22 of the regulation addresses these types of slip and trip hazards by requiring that all walking and working surfaces are kept in a clean, orderly, and sanitary condition. In other words, good housekeeping is mandatory, so don't allow slip and trip hazards to accumulate.
Okay, so moving along to the second area of discussion in our training here today is on the topic of guarding floor and wall openings. There are some things here to share, to talk about. This is taken from 1910-23 A, protection of stair floor openings. Put a little picture there you can see of top rail and mid rail. It goes, I think it's common sense that it's required to be guarded and to keep somebody from falling down through the hole, through the stairwell opening. So every stairway and ladder opening, floor opening must be guarded by standard railing. Please keep that in mind. An example one that we have again is here at Copalamus would be the stairs going up to the break room, and that is a reference point. That stairs there is a reference in a variety of places here in this section, and we do have that guarded. It needs to be guarded. Makes sense that it needs to be guarded. Protection for floor holes. Every manhole and floor or roadway drain must be guarded by standard strength and construction, secured by inlay or attached and able to support passage by foot or by equipment. That's common sense. Anytime that we'd be doing any repairing, we'd be removing that manhole or a drain. You can see listed on the PowerPoint here, there are 3 areas that we must comply with. We must keep it covered at all times, or if a hole must be taken or must be exposed, a hole must be guarded on all exposed sides by temporary railing. We see that when we're out and about. A manhole will have a set of railing around it to protect people from falling in. Same way, occupational safety, same thing. Or the last one must be consistently attended or constantly attended by someone. So, some stipulations there in the event that we were to remove a drain cover or a manhole I know when we done some paving, we had to remove some storm drain grates. That would be an example of that. Protection from wall openings. This is a 1910-23B, and this wall openings are primarily dock doors. Not always. There could be other applications where facilities that would have wall openings, but primarily it would be dock doors. They must be guarded. Um, Anytime, again, you see this 4 foot, every wall opening which has a drop of 4 foot or more must be guarded. So something to keep in mind. Not a lot that we have going on here as far as wall openings concerns, but something to keep in your mind. In the future we could. Protection from uh, open-sided floors. This is another area. An example would be the storage area above the new office building. We put railing on there, and that's what this 23C is referring to. Using that flooring as an example does require that we have railing on there to prevent somebody from falling off. So there would be open dock must be guarded with railings, and although it's outside, it kind of gives a reference again to the railing on our dock here at Fayette as well. I'm just trying to think of the other facilities, Athens, Brownsville, and over at Fabrication. If there's any of these three that are in violation, we'll need to correct them if there is. But uh, let's move on. Next slide is fixed industrial stairs. Um, we have limited amount of stairs. Most of our buildings that we have are single story. Um, the uh, the only exception to that I can think of currently is in the case of here at Fayette going up to that break room. We list here the areas of OSHA requirement on the PowerPoint. This is found in 1910-24. Stairs are required for regular travel. Um, the common sense, but an employer can't just throw up a ladder and say, okay, all the employees must climb the ladder when every time they want to go up to break. Regular traveled must have the stairs. Must be designed and constructed to support 5 times the normal load anticipated, but never less than safely that it, never less than 1,000 pound capacity. They need to be built to at least hold 1,000 pounds. Minimum width is 22 inches. Must have reasonable slip resistant tread, and that's how it's worded: reasonable slip resistant tread, which we have. Josh got some slip resistant stick-on surface material, and the guys put it on. Done a great job. We're compliant. Rise height and tread must be uniform throughout the stairs. This is something that isn't, we see this quite a bit, especially outside. When they repave the first step, might have been 7.5 inches step up. They paved, now it's only 3. OSHA would cite you on that. So stair tread and riser must be the same height. Each step must be the same height or close to it. So I have yet to see an OSHA inspector get a tape measure out on that, but anything's possible. Hand railing must be provided on at least one side, preferably the right, which is a descending. Um, must have a vertical clearance or head clearance of at least 7 feet. So something to keep in mind as well as, I don't know why, but something to, if you're building stairs or, you go somewhere and you notice that they don't have proper head clearance. According to occupational safety standards, it would be not compliant. So As we're moving along, a few things here to remember. I wrote down a number of them here. First, be diligent. Keep areas, work areas clean, surfaces free from hazards such as oil and debris, things like that. Strive to be neat. Put things away in the proper place. Hoses, tools, anything that can be laying out. Uh, just be neat and orderly. We do a good job of that, but it does go, it does need repeated, and we need to be reminded of it. I'm myself included. Keep exits and travel paths open in the shop where we designated travel paths open. Keep them, free from stuff. It could be a trip hazard. Um, Focus on snow and removable pathways. One of the reasons that we did the outside is so that we could, when it snows, we can get that and ice, we can get that cleaned off first, and we can get our salt spread on that area in the prevention of a slip or trip. I know that Brownsville and Athens and even over Fabrication does not specifically have pathways, but even without the markings, we would like to encourage us all to be working at, uh, you know, uh, starting with the highly traveled areas first and then moving out. If we do need to put salt or ice melt down, put it where it would be the most effective. And I know we already work at doing that. But next thing on the list is do not use stairs as a place to set things. Um, I see people setting on from time to time their lunch boxes on the stairs or a box, or maybe it's an item that they had that's small. They set on the tread of the stairs. Try to avoid that. Somebody coming down the stairs might not see it, or somebody going up might try to step over and fall. It's not the place for it. So please be cautious with that. Report any hazards. That goes across the board with everything that we talk about, do training on. Report hazards. If you see something that is a trip hazard, a slip hazard, fall hazard, report it. Let somebody else know about it. If you can't fix it yourself, report it so that it can be fixed before somebody else comes along and gets hurt. So, last but not least on this, I say this often: slow down. Almost always, accidents occur because of human error, and one of the errors that seldomly or often occurs is people being in a hurry. I wouldn't say running, but they're concentrating on other things. They're not paying attention. They're distracted, and they run into something and get themselves hurt or property damage or something. So slow down. It's always important. I know I stressed this when we done our forklift safety training, and it's something worth repeating in all areas of safety, is to remind people to slow down, including myself. So please take heed to that. Next topic that we want to talk about is ladders. Ladders come from CFR 1910-25 and 26. I do have a video on this to show that gives some more in-depth understanding of the requirements with ladder safety. We, I, I would say, as far as a risk assessment here at Fayette Industries, ladders is not something that we use, a lot, but we do have them, and we do use them. So we are required to do training on them. And I hope there is something in particular in this section that when you're at home working with your ladders that you do keep in mind some of the points that are made in this video.
Werner Company, the world's leading manufacturer of climbing products, presents Werner Climbing Pro, a public service series designed to promote ladder safety through education. Welcome. Werner Company is proud to present you with the latest edition in our Climbing Pro safety training. This exclusive information is designed to keep professionals like you safe on the job. Be sure to visit wernerladder.com for additional online training opportunities. In this program, we'll discuss one of the most important topics, ladder safety. There are a number of key elements to prevent climbing-related injuries and keep you safe on the job. First, we'll show you how to select the right ladder for your project. Then we'll teach you how to inspect and handle your ladder. And finally, we'll demonstrate common mistakes and show you the proper ways to use your ladder safely. So let's get started. Ladders selected and used correctly help you work in a safe, efficient, and more productive manner. Use common sense and always follow the safety instructions on the ladder before and while you climb. The first step in ladder safety is to choose the right ladder for the job. Assess the job site and the job at hand. Then ask yourself, what am I trying to accomplish? How high will I climb? How much weight will the ladder have to support? To answer those questions, you need to know 4 factors to help determine the correct ladder for the job: style, size, duty rating, and material. The most common types of ladders are step ladders and extension ladders. Werner offers a variety of styles within those categories that can help you work smarter, safer, and more efficiently. We'll discuss those in more detail later on. Now let's consider size. Choosing the right size ladder is just as important as the style. One of the most common and potentially dangerous mistakes is using a ladder that's either too short or too long. Did you know that the highest safe standing level on a step ladder is 2 steps down from the top? It's important to remember that a person's maximum safe reaching height is approximately 4 feet higher than the height of the ladder. Keep that in mind when choosing a size. Duty rating is also critical. Werner ladders are built to handle the demands of various applications. The duty rating should take into account both the total weight that will be on the ladder and the specific job at hand. Many professional grade ladders are yellow or orange, so remember, you need to check the ID label for duty rating. Duty rating is the maximum allowable weight on the ladder. It is the sum of the person's weight plus the weight of any tools, clothing, and material. Also consider the variety of personnel that will be using these ladders. This total weight must not exceed the duty rating. There are 5 ANSI-recognized duty ratings: 200-pound Type 3, 225-pound Type 2, 250-pound Type 1, 300-pound Type 1A, and finally, a 375-pound Type 1AA. The duty rating is clearly marked on all Werner ladder side rails. You'll also find the model number of the ladder, the highest standing level, size, and safety instructions as well. Carefully read all labels and follow safety procedures and work practices. Choosing the right material is the final element in selecting a ladder. Fiberglass ladders have become a leading choice due to their durability, strength, and suitability for a wide range of applications. In addition to being available in step and extension ladders, the side rails are electrically non-conductive, making fiberglass a good choice when working around electricity. And if you're working in highly corrosive environments, an extension ladder with fiberglass rungs is also available. Aluminum ladders are lightweight, strong, durable, and corrosion resistant. However, because aluminum readily conducts electrical current, these ladders should never be used around electricity. Remember, selecting the right ladder is the first step in ladder safety. Now that you've made the proper ladder selection, the next step is to inspect your ladder. Most injuries can be avoided simply by taking the time to thoroughly inspect your equipment before using it. Never climb a ladder without carefully looking for missing, damaged, or loose components. Be sure that the ladder is in good working condition, free of any spills, drips, or other debris. Also, check to make sure that the labels on your ladder are in place and readable. When inspecting your step ladder, begin at the bottom and work your way up. First, look at the feet and be sure the foot pads are properly attached and are not worn, torn, or missing. Next, inspect the ladder rails. For a fiberglass ladder, make sure the rails are not excessively worn, damaged, or split. For an aluminum step ladder, be sure there is no damage or bowing to the rails. Do this for both the front and back of your step ladder. Look at the steps of your ladder to make sure that they are not bent or damaged and that the connections are tight. Also, clean any debris or other substances from the steps. Finally, check to see if your ladder can open and close smoothly, making sure the spreaders lock securely and all 4 feet sit firmly on the ground. If you discover any of these problems, tag the ladder and take it out of service immediately. The rule of thumb is always, when in doubt, tag it and throw it out. Use the same process when inspecting an extension ladder. Begin at the bottom and work your way to the top. Closely examine the feet to make sure the foot pads are not missing or torn. Then inspect the shoes for damage and check to see if they move freely. Then look at the rails and rungs of your ladder to ensure that they are not bent, bowed, cracked, split, or torn. Carefully examine the locks of your extension ladder to make sure they're clear of any debris and lock easily over the rung. Check to be sure that the flippers on the locks are in place and are not damaged. Finally, look at the rope on your extension ladder. Check to see that it is properly secured to the fly section of the ladder and make sure that it is not frayed, worn, or torn and that it glides easily through the pulley. Never climb on a damaged ladder. Remember, when in doubt, tag it and throw it out. Now let's move on to proper handling. Improper transporting and handling can cause damage to the ladder. When transporting ladders, use a truck or van rack with proper restraints so they don't rattle or vibrate during transfer, as this could damage the ladders. Be extra careful moving ladders. Make sure you don't drop a ladder when loading or unloading it from a vehicle. And never drag it across the ground. Do not carry an extension ladder in its extended position. For longer ladders, use 2 people to make it easier to carry. Keep ladders in good condition. Clean spills or drips, and always remove any slippery materials. Protect ladders from excessive heat, weather, and corrosive materials. Lightly lubricate moving parts with silicone spray. Be careful not to get lubricant on the standing or gripping surfaces. Finally, when storing ladders, provide proper support and do not store other materials on top. Now that we've discussed the proper handling methods, let's talk about a few safe climbing rules that apply to both step and extension ladders. Always face the ladder when climbing or descending and maintain a firm grip. Climb carefully and slowly. Avoid excessive turning and twisting. Make sure you always face the ladder while working. Consider the types of tools you'll be using when climbing a ladder. Will you need a helper, bucket, and rope to hoist them up? If you use a tool belt, be careful your tools don't catch on the ladder while climbing. Never climb on a damaged ladder. Remember, when in doubt, tag it and throw it out. A common mistake is overreaching. Overreaching can cause you to lose your balance or tip the ladder, which may result in an injury. Keep your body centered on the ladder. A good rule of thumb is never let your belt buckle pass beyond either ladder rail. Instead, get off the ladder and move it closer to your work area. Another solution is to choose a different ladder that may be better suited for the job. One of the most important things to remember is to never use an aluminum step or extension ladder near electricity. In that instance, you should always use a fiberglass ladder because of its non-conductive side rails. You may find that a step ladder would be the most useful way to get your job done. They come in a wide variety of styles such as single-sided, tripod, twin step, platform, and extension trestle ladders. So let's go through the proper usage of a step ladder. But remember, before you climb, inspect your ladder every time. First, open it. Lock the spreaders and ensure that the ladder footing is level and solid. Also, secure your work area to inhibit cross-traffic, especially in and around doorways. For a job that calls for consistent and predictable reach, a platform ladder may be your best bet. Platform ladders allow you to have a greater range of movement that ultimately helps reduce worker fatigue. In addition, the safety guardrail encourages proper use. And the large platform gives you a safe and stable base to work from and reduces user fatigue. If your job requires 2 people to access a ladder at the same time, a twin-step ladder is what you'll need. This ladder style offers 2 climbing sides and can safely hold 2 workers at the same time. It comes in a variety of sizes, including smaller ones for lower applications. Remember, the duty rating refers to the load per side of the ladder. When using the twin-step ladder, the platform ladder, or any other step ladder, it's important to follow these proper usage guidelines. Never attempt to cut anything on a ladder. Only use a properly equipped ladder or a sawhorse. It's extremely important to never move or walk a ladder when you're on it. Always step off and move the ladder. If you need to adjust the ladder throughout the course of the job, you should remove your tools or use a proper accessory to secure them in place. Many ladder tops are built to handle a variety of tools for this purpose. Also, you should never stand on the back of a step ladder. If 2 people need to be on the same ladder, you must use a twin-step model. Never stand, sit, or straddle the top of a stepladder. And never use a stepladder when getting on or off a roof. The highest safe standing level on a stepladder is 2 steps down from the top. If your work area cannot be safely reached, you'll need either a taller ladder or a different style of ladder that's more suited to the job. Stepladder should always be used in the open position, never closed. Instead, use an extension ladder. Now that we've thoroughly covered step ladders, let's look at the proper setup for extension ladders. First, lay the ladder down with the end caps pointing away from the building, with the base section on top of the fly section. The base section is the section with the feet. Before raising the ladder, check for overhead power lines, even if you're working inside. Walk the ladder against the base of the building or another secure object. If walking isn't an option, have someone block the bottom of the ladder. Now raise the ladder to its vertical position and move the base of the ladder away from the building until it's positioned at the proper angle. Position yourself between the ladder and the building. Face the ladder and grip the ladder rail on the base section. Grip and sturdy the ladder, keeping it vertical, while carefully raising the fly section using the rope and pulley. Extend the ladder to the desired height, and then allow the ladder locks to properly engage. Lean the ladder against the building and establish the correct setup angle. The setup angle of an extension ladder is critical. The base of the ladder should be positioned 1 foot away from the building for every 4 feet of ladder length, as measured from the base to the upper support point. This 4-to-1 ratio is essential to your safety. Placing an extension ladder base too close to the building can cause the ladder to tip over backwards. Placing the ladder too far away from its vertical support point may cause the ladder to slip out at the bottom. To ensure a correct setup, stand in front of the ladder. Place your toes against the bottom of the side rails. Stand erect with your arms straight out. The palms of your hands should touch the top of the rung nearest to shoulder level. A diagram, as well as an instruction label on the side rail of the ladder, illustrates this point. Before climbing, check to see that the 2 rung locks are fully engaged and the fly section is in front of the base on the climber's side. The ladder's feet should be on a solid, level, and non-slippery ground. The slip-resistant shoes are designed to pivot to compensate for certain ground conditions. Use spur plates on penetrable surfaces to ensure good footing. Solid footing is required for safe ladder use. Secure the bottom of the extension ladder or have someone hold the ladder for you whenever possible. When working on uneven ground, use a leveling device that meets OSHA requirements. Some ladders feature a built-in leveling device, as well as other leveling accessories that can be installed in the field on one or all of your ladders. Be sure both end caps or top contact points are resting securely against the structure. The upper support should have at least 12 inches of solid support available on both sides of the ladder. The highest safe standing level on an extension ladder is 4 rungs from the top. If you're going to step onto a roof from a ladder, be sure that you extend the ladder 3 feet above the roof's edges. Extending the ladder too far above the roof's edge could cause the ladder to slide or kick out. Tie off the extension ladder to the roof or rigid structure to reduce ladder movement. Absolutely never attempt to move or reposition your ladder while standing on it, and never attempt to adjust it while working from above. Pulling or readjusting the ladder from the roof could unlock the fly section and make it extremely dangerous to climb back down. If you want to reposition your ladder, always climb back down and reposition your ladder while standing on the ground. Never set up your ladder at too shallow or too steep of an angle. When setting up an extension ladder, be sure to follow the 4-to-1 ratio procedure we previously discussed. When using an extension ladder while working on a roof, it's important to remember the following rules. If you're accessing the roof, the ladder should extend 3 feet above the roof line. If you are not accessing the roof, it's okay for the ladder to extend 1 foot above the roof edge. Never use your ladder on uneven ground. In order to make sure your ladder is stable, use a proper leveling device. Once again, remember that you should never use an aluminum extension ladder near electricity. Instead, use a fiberglass ladder and maintain a safe distance from electrical lines. There are also many accessories that can be used with extension ladders to increase the safety of utility workers. Some can be installed in the field, and others come factory installed. Cable hooks help to prevent your ladder from sliding off an overhead wire or cable. V-rungs are used to create a secure resting point for the ladder on the pole. The ladder cinch is a tie-down accessory used to secure the ladder to the utility pole and can be attached before you climb. Ladder lashes are another tie-down accessory for the top of your ladder and can be adjusted for poles of all diameters. Levelers allow you to safely use your ladder on uneven ground. Some levelers adjust automatically, while others are adjusted manually. As you've seen, extension ladders are an excellent choice for many jobs that require safe operation at higher distance from the ground. Ladders can provide a safe and efficient way to work, but it must be the right ladder for the job. To maximize your safety, consider style, size, duty rating, and material when selecting a ladder. And always inspect a ladder before using it. Never climb a damaged ladder, and ensure the proper setup and stability of the ladders you're using in the workplace. The information presented in this program is designed to help you use ladders more safely and productively. Always think before you climb. Use good common sense, and remember, proper ladder selection and job site assessment is key to safe climbing. Whether you're 6 or 60 feet in the air, the last thing you want to think about is the safety of your ladder. That's why at Werner, it's the first thing we think about. With over 60 years of product design and testing, there's no doubt why the pro prefers the Werner brand. And through innovation and cutting-edge technology, we are the world leader in climbing equipment, which means you can count on Werner for the most complete line of professional-grade step and extension ladders, planks, stages, and scaffolding. Werner, the #1 brand in professional climbing equipment. If you have any questions about these or other Werner products, please visit our website to learn more. WernerLadder.com offers additional resources and several other online training modules. Visit WernerLadder.com today and invest in your safety.
I hope you found that video to be informative and that there was information that is helpful to you. Um, we have a couple questions, or just to recap some things that may not have been in that video. Most of them were, but just a few things I wanted to share about ladder safety. One of the first questions is asked is, how often do ladders need to be inspected? The answer to that is ladders need to be inspected prior to each use. That's why we showed the video that showed how to inspect ladders, what to be looking for. In addition to that, ladders like jacks and jack stands need to be inspected annually. So keep that in mind. Each ladder does need to be identified. They do need to have the labeling needs to be on ladders. The instructions, that's something that the OSHA inspectors love to pick out and cite for. Not a big thing, but each ladder does need to be identified usually by a number or an alphanumeric code, and then we inspect it yearly and keep record of that. If you buy a ladder at any facility, or if you throw one away that was damaged, let me know. We'll take it off the list. I would say the best thing is, for me, would be if you buy a new one, let me know so that I can add it on, because ladders need to be inspected before they go into service, even if they're new. So please, try to remember that. That goes with jack stands and jacks and forklifts and just about anything that needs inspected, which is about everything. I should be given information on that. What is the leading cause of falls from ladders? And the answer to that is overextending. Overextending. If your belt buckle or your belly button, center line of your body, midsection, passes the uprights on the ladder, if you have to extend over past one of them to do your work, you're overextending, and that is a leading cause of accidents on ladders. People fall, they lose their balance, or the ladder kicks out from under them. What is the duty rating, maximum allowable weight that the ladder can carry or certified to carry? What is the highest allowable step that should be used? On a step ladder, it is the top two. It's the very top and the second from the top should not be used. Extension ladders, you have an extension ladder up, the top 3 rungs are not to be used to stand on, and that makes sense, especially if you've ever worked up high on an extension ladder. That would be clearer. How many points of contact should always be used when climbing any ladder? And the answer to that is 3. Should be 2 feet and 1 hand, or 2 hands and 1 foot. If you want to carry anything up the ladder that can't be fastened onto you, like a tool belt, it should be taken up with another method, such as a string, a rope and pulley, and a bucket or a container, something like that. You shouldn't try to be doing work that requires you to remove one of those 3 points of contact. When should a step ladder not be used? Lean position, too short, does not pass inspection. There is quite a long list of these reasons why a step ladder should not be used. But those are most of the step ladders should not be used in the lean position. Usually when you do that, the bottom swings down and can kick the supporting legs out from under you. I've seen that happen. If it's too short or doesn't pass inspection, that's a giveaway. The main thing there with step ladders is they're not designed to lean up against something to climb. They're designed to sit up and to use that way. So keep that in mind. What is the 4-to-1 ratio when placing an extension or single ladder against an object? It is for every 4 foot of rise, it's it's back from the wall 1 foot. So if you go up 8, it would be 2. So 12 would be 3. So another thing that I like to do is to place my toe at the front of the ladder and extend my hand, and my fingertips touch the ladder. That degree, standing upright, and putting your foot at the tip of the ladder, touching it with your fingers, pretty much gives you a 4-to-1 ratio. If you follow me on that. But placing your ladder, leaning your ladder up properly, is something that's huge, and that you're setting on a solid level surface, and that your shoes on your ladder are in good working condition, is very important as well. So setting up a ladder is critical. How many a ladder should extend how many feet above a landing, such as a roof? The answer to that is 4 feet. And if you have a roof and you're extending a ladder up over, the ladder should extend up over 4 feet. And that gives you a handhold to grab onto when you're getting on and off the ladder. If you're getting onto a roof, or you're getting onto a landing of some sort. So keep that in mind. When is fall rest systems needed when using a ladder? They are not needed when using a ladder, as long as you use the ladder correctly, and you use 3 points of contact in climbing. So why and when do fixed ladders need a safety cage? Whenever a ladder is 20 foot, and that does not include the 6 to 8 foot from the ground, they require a safety cage. So it's not something that we have here, but it's something that was actually left over from last training. But that's the answer to that. So anything over 28 feet, 26 to 28 feet from the ground, and to the top of the ladder would require safety cage. This is an example of not OSHA approved. And I show this video to make a point: only use equipment for its intended purpose. We can see that the swivel chair and the castered stand the gentleman was trying to use was not appropriate. He was not using it for its intended purpose. So please keep that in mind. Standing on swivel chairs, have I done it? Yep, I have. Not safe, and just not a good thing to do. It's asking for trouble. So don't take chances. That's the main point. Don't take chances. Another word too. Anything that's manufactured under 4 feet, that means that it would elevate you less than 4 feet up. It does not need to be inspected in this section. It can be considered a step stool. Step stools are not ladders, so they do fall into, they do need to be inspected. They do need to be in good working condition, but that's pretty much where it stops. So the same would apply with using a 3-stepped ladder as opposed to a 20-foot step ladder. Step stools, they do not carry or require all of the requirements that a standard ladder, or step ladder, extension ladder would. Ladder duties, the duty ratings, you can see the typical duty ratings of what ladder manufacturers are manufacturing. When in doubt and buying a ladder, a 1A or a double A would be recommended. Fiberglass would be the best recommended. And most people buy fiberglass extension ladders do not expect to be around electrical current. but they look good. They're yellow or orange and they're visible. It's easier to find them. Aluminum ladders, especially in step ladders, um, they are usually very rickety, unstable, so I'd stay away from aluminum. But so, just a few points to mention on ladder safety. You want to select the correct type, um, material, size. Inspect ladders prior to each use. Tag them out if they're not working or if they're damaged or if they're defective. I know we didn't talk about tag out a lot. That's because we didn't do lockout tag out, but we will be doing that. But take it out of service if it's damaged. Read and follow instructions that are on the ladder. They should be legible. Always maintain 3-point contact. Always face the ladder when climbing up or descending. Never overextend. Use a 4-to-1 ratio when placing ladders. Should not use a step ladder in a leaning position. Talked about that briefly earlier. Use a tow rope or a tool belt. Can greatly help to minimize you from falling. It doesn't, the extra weight hanging on the side can cause you to lean, maybe overextend, lose your balance. Important. Do not stand. Step on. Do not stand. Do not stand on the top 2 rungs of a step ladder or the top 3 of an extension ladder. Do not use step ladder to gain entrance to a roof or a platform. You would use an extension ladder. An extension ladder must extend up past the landing 3 to 4 feet. 4 feet is ideal. It should be tied off. The ladder fastened is something that's a good thing too. But the reason for extending is so you have something to grab a hold to when you're swinging up around on top of the landing or the roof and getting back on. So it's important. Use 2 people to set up and move large ladders. Common sense. You can cause a lot of bodily harm, injury by trying to lift a ladder that's awkward in size and length and weight. Do not overextend extension ladders. Ladders up to 36 foot should always have 3 feet, 3 foot of overlap, and ladders over 36 should have 4 foot. And the reason for that is if you get it too narrow, your ladder becomes weak. So 36 inches or 3 feet up to 36 or 4 foot over 36 is the law on that overlap. Store ladders horizontally when possible. If standing up vertically, secure them so they don't fall down. A lot of people have gotten injured by ladders falling down and hitting them on the head, or worse. So be mindful of that. This slide in here is ladder inspection form. That is kind of a universal form that we use to inspect ladders. So again, if you take a ladder, if you buy a ladder, let me know. We'll create a form for it, and we'll do that on a year. Another area of concern that we have in regards to fall protection is whenever we are loading or unloading trailers. What kind of fall protection or training are we giving to those that perform these tasks? We all know that that it is a regular part of our business, and we also know that it is specific to this trade or specific to how we or the things that we must do here at Fayette Industries. This training piece is for those who unload and also for our drivers who load trailers, or in Brent's case, he also loads as well. So unloading, loading, these guidelines are important to keep note and to practice. The very first one is to avoid scaling trailers when possible. Um, Recognize that it is a hazard. Anytime you must go climb up, loaded uh, load, keep in mind and remember that it is something that does have associated risk with it. Always maintain 3 points of contact, very important. Um, Make sure that both your hands and your feet are secure, or that you're securing your position whenever you're grabbing or whenever you're placing your feet. There can be things that are not secure, things that could cause you to lose your balance. Really take caution whenever you are moving up or down a load of trailers. Um, Next one is use a ladder when possible, position it according to safe practice. We do have ladders, and it is something that I know that Abe had shared at one point that he used a ladder, but we kind of gotten out of doing that. We do have, and if not, we will get. If you see, you know, talk with me about this. If you're a driver and you want to carry one on your truck, we can make that happen. So ladders can be a great way of making sure that you're safe while ascending or descending. Never jump off trailers or loads. Those, it seems like there's a fair amount of individuals who will take the risk of jumping maybe from a higher level than their body was designed to. So please use caution and don't do that. Use caution always, but especially during rain, snow, and ice when slippery conditions exist. It's a no-brainer, but it is very true that those conditions cause or create more of a hazard. Only authorized, experienced individuals should scale loads. If you've not done it before, if you're not familiar with the risk, the hazards, please refrain from doing it. We don't want someone who is inexperienced falling off needlessly and getting hurt. So next one is make certain the truck is secure, ignition is off, and that the keys are pulled. Um, in the heat of being in a hurry, crazy things can happen and do happen. So make sure that the truck is off and that you have a good, clear understanding of where the driver is. I'm not saying specifically the keys need to be pulled and put in your pocket, but it would be a good safe, a good habit to develop to make sure that somebody is not going to be backing or moving a load that could throw you off, whether you're unloading with the forklift or you're actually trying to scale a load or something, anything really. So the next one is avoid standing upright or walking on top of loads. If you ever done this, you know that the suspension in the truck, the give, it can cause some swaying. Is certainly limited, but it is dangerous. Your load, just for sake of argument, your load top trailer might be, 14 feet high, 12 feet. You add the height of your body, another 6 foot. That is, just adds an extra force upon impact if you did fall. So try not to stand upright or walk across tops of loads. Take the time needed, required, and do not rush. Very important. Um, there are major amounts of accidents caused by employees getting or being in a hurry and rushing. So please take the time needed to whenever you're doing tie down and unloading basis. So next topic is fixed ladders. I know right from the get-go we my knowledge, don't have any fixed ladders, but it is a topic that we do want to cover. You may have some on your farm or at home, or we may have, we may get some or have one or two that I'm unaware of, but my travelings, I haven't seen any fixed ladders. But guidelines on the ladders, OSHA would specify that, they must be able to support load rating of at least 200 pounds. Rungs and cleats 12 inches apart, or not over 12 inches apart. Cages and wells, when must safety cages be around them? Fixed ladders must extend to a minimum of 3 feet above a platform, 3 to 4 feet, just like with extending an extension ladder up over a landing or a roof peak, must be a roof edge must be 4 feet. So things to remember: use the correct ladder for a job. Always inspect prior to climbing. Inspect your ladder. Wet conditions, snow and ice, we know that limits your traction on rungs, so please be careful with that. And be mindful of what's above you: electric lines, bees, birds, anything that could startle you. Be cautious with that. There's been many cases where people have fallen because they didn't realize that there was, there was a bee's nest board in the side of the building or wherever, and they fell. So use caution. Never use a damaged or unsafe ladder. Again, tag it out. Use 3-point contact. Always face the ladder. Do not overextend. And just think of the consequences of what would happen if you did fall. There are many people. I know a few years ago out in Sealands Grove at the Plaza House Furniture, one of the employees was working. An older guy actually killed him. He fell off a step ladder. He's changing a light bulb, I believe, and he didn't die immediately, but it did cost him his life. There are hundreds, thousands of stories like that. The ones that hit home are the ones that you remember. Probably almost all of us know of somebody personally who has fallen and got injured. So use caution. Next area we want to talk about very briefly, it is part of fall production training, is scaffolding, the tubular steel. To my knowledge, we do not have any scaffolding here on site or at any of our sites, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't use scaffolding or red scaffolding in the event that we needed to, or perhaps even in our personal life we might have need to use scaffolding or even own scaffolding. So the guidelines for scaffolding are written, and they are in our written plan. And certainly we don't have any inspection reports for scaffolding. So, we don't have anything to show that we even have any. But few rules for scaffolding. Just, I'm not going to read all this again, but just looking over it: evaluate the site and plan, prepare the base, inspect the scaffolding, erecting it in a safe manner, safe work practices while using scaffolding. There's a video link here if you're interested in gaining more information on using scaffolding. If we ever buy any or rent any, we will make sure that we do cover this it's in its entirety to make sure that we're compliant with the use of scaffolding. Next to our last section that we want to talk about is aerial lifts. Vertical aerial platform versus boom supported aerial platforms. You can see in the far left we have a scissors lift. The middle one is a cage. It's a man lift cage. The next one over is another scissors lift, and then the two on the far right are boom lifts. And the reason that one of the main things that I want to talk about in these videos has to do with the fact that we could buy or rent a scissors lift or boom lift, or our future plan is to buy a cage for one of our picker forklift or industrial truck over in the warehouse. So there are a few things that we want to cover here, not much, but we want to make sure that we're got what we need. Um, uh, and if we ever do buy or rent a scissors or a picker or a boom lift, we will make sure that we do training. But for now, the cage unit that we're buying is wood scale. The plan is that that industrial truck will be equipped via the forks for a cage to be put on it. All of the operation of the lift is done by the controls, just like we have for a long time. The only reason or the only change is that we're adding a four-sided cage, or a three-sided, I should say. The front of the industrial truck is the fourth side, is to prevent falls and to keep us from needing to buy fall protection gear in the form of harnesses and lanyards, and also to do the training that is required. The training is listed I have listed here in this slide, and I'm not going to read down over it, but there is requirements on using a man lift or a lift, and one of the requirements is that the person does need to be proficient in the operation and safe use. We have complied with that when we've done our industrial truck training, for the lift that or the industrial truck that will be equipped with the cage. So we have very little operational training that needs to be done. It would be pretty much the same way as getting a lift and using a cage and using it as with the forklift. The operator of that forklift already knows how to use because we covered that. So all employees who operate working platforms must be trained in the following: recognition of and preventative measures for the safety hazards associated with their individual work task. General recognition and prevention of safety hazards associated with the use of working platforms to be operated, and that would be the operations of the lift. One of the, again, as we read down over here, we see one of the looming questions that people often ask is with personal fall arrest systems, which is the last section that we want to touch base on here in this training, is what requires the use of a harness and what does not. And so I have a video here that I want to show, and the video is the use of a boom lift. And the boom lift is the only man lift that does require a lanyard with a harness. And you'll see in the video why. Anything that has a four-sided rail, top rail, mid rail, and toe kick, does not require the use of a lanyard, as long as it's used without overextending, or used in accordance to the way it was designed to be used. The items that do not would be a scissors lift, which has all four sides on it. The lift cage or the man lift, the cage has all four sides on it. And scaffolding, if it's erected properly, has all four sides on it as well. Does not need to be, the users of that do not need to use the harness with the lanyard and the tie-off point. They are considered to be protected by the railing that is around them. The only exception to that is the boom lift. And once you see this video, you'll know why boom lifts require the use of a harness. So let me show you that. So you can clearly see by that video that the use of a harness system is required, or why it's required. And there's been many cases where people have gotten thrown out of the cage of those. So they do require, but the other types of lifts, as long as they are supported, do not. Now, I do know that there's a lot of publications out there, manufacturers of scissors lifts in particular, that like to, when they advertise their lift, they almost always put the personnel in the photo or in the video advertising uh, uh, materials. They almost always put them in a harness system. Currently, to date, the law does not require it, so we can save some money and some effort on that. So. Just a few things on man lifts. We do have a small number of people who got certified in the Class 4 industrial truck, which is the picker. If we ever rent or if we ever buy a scissors lift or a boom lift, we want to make sure that we do comply, and we certify. There's actually a certification that goes with them as far as labor, or as far as OSHA is concerned. Um, so what should be done each time prior to using a lift? It should be inspected. Same thing with the industrial truck, should be inspected. Who's qualified to use a vertical aerial platforms or boom supported aerial platforms? People who are trained and certified. How many people are allowed to work from a lift? Two is the allowable. One to operate the control and the other one to do the work. What is fall arrest equipment required? I hope I cleared that up. Um, it is required on boom lifts, but anything that has the cage around does not require it. Why should planning and worksite inspection be done prior to using a lift? Uh, that makes sense. On even ground, want to make sure that it's no electrical obstructions, things like that. I will say we haven't done our electrical safety training yet, but the number one cause of death in the electrical section, in the electrical code, is overhead electrical lines. So that is something that really, the reason I bring that up is because if we use our cage on a forklift, we just want to make sure that we are not subjecting somebody to overhead power lines or anything else that could be hazardous. So I would like to say that um, the cage that is being bought for the Class 4, which is the picker in our warehouse at Fayette Cocalamus, that it only be used for that purpose, and that we don't use it as a lift cage any other place. What should people below on the ground be wearing? Overhead should be wearing hard hats. Um, and what should always be done when transporting a lift? It should always be tied down, and that goes with any lift, not just a Class 4. Anything with wheels on it should be tied down. It's a lot of this is repeat from industrial truck, and a lot of it is common. It's all common sense for the most part. So just a few pointers there to keep in mind in the safe use of the Class 4 industrial truck with the cage on it. It really doesn't change a lot, but I just wanted to answer a few questions, in particular with the fall arrest. So it's why we got it, so we didn't need to go through the fall arrest training um, and buy the equipment and give the certification for the fall arrest, wearers as well. So it should work out well for us. But keep in mind, if we were to rent or if we were to buy, um, we would be required to do additional training and to give certification. So we want to be cautious with that. So last but not least, we come to number 9 of fall protection training, which is on fall arrest systems. Um, there is a lot to this on this topic, and I'm thankful that we currently are operating in a fashion that does not require us to implement fall arrest systems. It is primarily known in the construction industry, but general industry also must comply if if they have situations, repairs, have reason for individuals to be subjecting themselves to falls that would require fall arrest systems. Um, so there is, on the next slide, there is a PowerPoint that gives an introduction to fall hazards. One is fall arrest equipment needed, the basic principles of fall prevention and protection, fall protection equipment selection, use, and care. Like all equipment, it must it needs to meet standards. Um, excuse me. And fall arrest equipment they're very strict with the inspection of each individual piece. Um, the tie-off points or the anchoring points that they call them. It is cumbersome, but it is a very necessary part of OSHA for those that are being exposed to fall hazards and that are required to use fall protection. So equipment inspection, use and care procedures, and proper equipment donning, actually, putting it on, proper sizing. They make a lot of different pieces and a lot of different parts of the equipment to make fall arrest. The lanyard strengths or lengths, free fall distances, and there's a good bit that goes into it. So thankfully, we're not required, or we don't need to do training on fall arrest. So if you want to learn more about that, I often mention, I think I've had 3 people in my life who has fallen out of tree stands during archery season, and none of those 3 were wearing fall arrest. So I usually, in doing fall arrest training, usually at some point try to put a little bit of try to be influential on, asking people to consider using fall arrest for that purpose if you're using a tree stand. But there are many applications, roofers, anybody that's working, up high, that requires fall arrest. There are many occupations that there's just no way of performing the task without it. But thankfully, we currently don't need to get into this. But if you want to learn more about it, feel free to ask me or check the link above. There are many of training videos on fall arrest that would be applicable, I'm sure, for what you would want to do. So, in closing, remember, falls are a leading cause of injury on and off the job. Please use good practices, not only here at Fayette Industries, but also while you're off the job. Remember that both same level and elevated falls can cause serious injury. And that is absolutely true. Same level falls, which are the most common, there's a lot of injuries. Thousands, millions of dollars are spent each year on workman comp claim for legitimate falls. I'm sure slips, trips, and falls gets a bad name for people who are trying to work the system and get off work and get paid. trying to fake injuries, but same level falls, there are people get seriously hurt. Remember, OSHA requires training in general industry when an employee is elevated 4 feet or higher. So keep that in mind. We must continue to assure that we review our tasks and our jobs that employees are doing to make sure that they have the proper training and the proper equipment. At no time should anybody place themselves in danger. If you have any questions about this video, this PowerPoint, this topic, please come and see me. Or if you have any questions regarding anything else that we covered or we didn't cover in regards to safety, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions and help to keep you safe. So I appreciate your time in watching this, and even more so appreciate you for being an employee who buys into safety and does everything to take care of yourself and others in the prevention of accidents. If you see anything, if anything happens, please report it, and so we can resolve it. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.